Hey Chiara, how are you? How you doing?
Hi, Kevin. Fine. Nice to see you. How are
I,
you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I wanted to see if you can introduce yourself. Tell the audience who you are, where you located.
Sure. I'm Chiara. My name is Chiara Ippoliti. So it's an Italian name, actually with a little Greek in it. And I'm based in Rome. I was born and raised here in Italy, but my family from my mother's side is actually Australian. So that is where my Aussie accent comes from.
Very nice, very nice. And Chiara, so tell me, what type of real estate do you focus on?
I focus mainly on residential real estate. I take care of both sales and rentals, but I also do, along with my team, take care of bigger investors who are interested in commercial.
Okay,
So mainly residential, but going towards commercial and bigger investments, definitely.
perfect. And you said that you're located in Rome, correct? In Italy?
Yes, I'm located in Rome, the capital, right in the middle, obviously. Most of my properties that I take care of personally are located in the area of Rome, but I also do take care as a property finder of purchasing properties for my international clients in other regions. Italy has 20 regions, and starting from up north Liguria, for example, you might have heard of Liguria as a region, or areas even around the famous Lake of Como or
Mm.
Tuscany. Most of my international buyers are dreaming of finding a property in Tuscany. And I go down south as well, Puglia, which is a very requested region as well. And Sicily lately, I've had some properties that have been properties that will soon be on the market for sale in Sicily, even, for example. Yeah.
So you focus on a couple different areas. Wow, that's amazing. I mean, which areas have you seen that the investors are more going toward, like your
Mm.
international investors?
Yeah. Well, I must say that there's a variety of interests. No client is exactly the same as the previous one or the following ones. I must say that recently I've been taking care, for example, of Islo Americans who are looking to buy property in the region they have discovered being the where their roots are, where their family originally came from.
Mm.
So sometimes it's even tiny little places, old villages in uh, in some southern region, or sometimes even in northern regions. So there's really not a client identical to another one, which is what really makes me so passionate about what I do, because there's so much behind the search of a property in Italy, when the reason comes from from so deep inside, like looking for your roots, your family roots.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you had mentioned that off air when we were speaking that yeah. I that's something I didn't even know about that. So a lot of people that are Italian Americans, they want to go back to their roots. They want to buy in the towns where their families, ancestors, grandparents were from. So that's amazing. Now,
Oh, sorry, Kevin. Or sometimes, for example, I'm focusing now on taking care of a couple of clients who are coming from near New York, and their family originally was from some town around about an hour and a half from Rome, and they said, well, we're not really interested in finding a property there. We are looking more for the lively lifestyle of a city like Rome, which is maybe a couple of hours away from there, but they know that they can go and visit family in their old town, but they want to purchase in Rome. So they'll be close enough, but they realize that, even in terms of an investment, buying a property in Rome will, of course, in terms of appreciation, be much more valuable than buying some smaller place in a smaller town. They said to me, well, we can buy a property in there just like that because, word of mouth, family, friends, a little place, but they want something that has more value, like Rome could be. Close enough, but more value.
Wow. So what sort of market trends have you been seeing over the past few years? I've been interviewing different countries, like I mentioned to you. I would want to get your intake on Italy or maybe Rome specifically, whichever one you feel best you want to share with.
Okay. Well, globally speaking, it's been a very challenging couple of years, no? After Corona, COVID, we all globally sort of suffered a lot. Therefore, even the real estate did. In Italy, we've had a couple of years of very high inflation. And along with the high inflation, of course, the rates of loans have gone up. So a lot of fear, buyers deciding to move back from the idea of purchasing and deciding, for example, to rent. Uh, the rent market has gone crazy in these last couple of years, for example, in Italy, and especially in the big cities. So it's been a very challenging couple of years. I don't want to be too technical, but it is interesting. I've written this down. In 2022, our percentage of inflation was 8.1%. It started going down in 2023 to 5.7%, and the forecast for 2024 is something little slightly higher than 3%. So finally, inflation is going down. And along with this inflation, we are expecting, of course, even the interests for bank loans to go down. Therefore, we're expecting buyers to gain trust again in their capacity of purchasing properties. Therefore, we are expecting a growth of about 2% in the coming year in real estate. So we're actually, after this really global instability, we're very happy at the idea of going towards a more stable time. And the numbers are the good numbers, the good figures, and especially in big cities, in capital cities, Rome, Milan, or the historical capitals like, for example, Firenze, Florence, Bologna. Investing in property in Italy will never be a bad idea.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, that insight, because it's very similar to here in the United States, what we've been seeing. The interest rates they're still relatively high. The inflation was very, very high. And funny enough, here in the United States, there has been talk of the interest rates being cut, but the inflation's still so high that we don't really know when it's going to come down. So it's putting an extra strain on the buyers here. And then I don't know if you heard about the whole NAR settlement where, so before here in the United States, the seller's agent and the seller were in charge of paying the commissions for the buyers and the sellers. But now it looks like it's going to be changing. So it's going to add an extra added strain to the buyers if
Yeah,
they have to pay for a buyer's agent. So it's
yeah,
it's, it's a
yeah.
whole thing. And it's like you
Well,
say,
this
if you
is
buy. Mhm.
no, Kevin. I didn't want to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's like what you were saying about buying in the big cities. Here in New York, I mean, it's still been very, very, like if you bought right after the pandemic 2 years ago, last year, you're still seeing appreciation in the big
Yeah,
cities, right? I
yeah.
can't speak to other cities because I don't know, but here in New York City, the five boroughs, Nassau, Suffolk counties, it's still been going up. So, but yes, continue.
Yeah, no, in fact, there's two things that come to mind. First, the luxury market was not touched by any kind of crisis ever. At least here in Italy, we noticed this. Most of the high-end buyers would not need financing. Therefore, the fact of the rates being high wouldn't affect their decision buying. Inventory in luxury has always been pretty low, meaning, there's not as many, as, for example, I mean, in Rome in particular, everybody looks for the top floor with a terrace and a view. I mean, when there's the 2 million euros attic with the view on the historical square coming up on the market, it will last 2 seconds and it's gone, because there's so few of them, of course. So the luxury market never was affected by any kind of instability. It was something that I wanted to say regarding the fact that you said that the buyers are going to get this extra cost probably on their, from their pockets. In Italy, it's normal. It's the buyer is asked to pay usually an average between 3 and 4% on the value of the property they're purchasing. So if they are buying, let's say, a 500,000 euro worth property, they need to put into their closing costs an average, maybe even of 4% for the agent, plus VAT. This is something that surprises my international clients. It doesn't go in our pockets, but it's taxes that the state puts on our service. Therefore, let's say 20,000 euros plus 22% of that amount is paid by the buyer.
Oh my God. The government always wants their tax money. Wow, I didn't know in Italy it was common for the buyers to pay their own agent the commission.
Well, Kevin, this is a major difference. And in fact, when I first started connecting to international buyers, and they'd ask me, well, first of all, they'd ask me, why is it so difficult to buy a property in Italy? And there's a lot of bureaucracy. There's not an MLS. Okay. We have a variety of real estate websites where listing agents and even private sellers list their property. But sometimes you can even find the same property listed by 3 or 4 different agents.
Wow.
Most of the times, these agents don't even get back to you. They don't get back to us as Italians when we're looking for our our own interest. So when they see these English requests or any other language, sometimes they just say, oh, this is a little too complicated. They'll have maybe plenty of other buyers and they'll prefer to take, to concentrate on the locals. But the way it happens here is that both the seller and the buyer pay their part of commission to the agent. But we do not have listing agent and buyer's agent. Most of the times, the same agent is the listing agent and will assist the buyer who comes along replying to their ad. So it's a little difficult sometimes to accept in terms of potential conflict of interest, because the North American client would say to me, Chiara, but how is the listing agent going to represent my interest in maybe wanting to, save a little on this purchase? So it's interesting what is happening for you, and interesting how it's important. The real estate, everything is global. There's nothing more nothing else can be considered local anymore. Locally, everything needs to be taken into global consideration.
Of course.
We need to,
No, definitely. I mean, that's how it is. That's wow, it's great insight. I mean, unfortunately, it is what it is, and it's good for the American viewers listening to this, because if they want to invest in Italy, it's good that they know, hey, listen, it's going to be a little bit difficult. You need to have good people beside you, like Chiara, to help you with the process. One more thing I wanted to ask you too. Well, several other things. Italian market. Is there a specific appreciation that you guys have seen over the past years, or?
The prices have risen 20-30% as well. Then there's a lot of craziness, I would say, going on in Rome in particular, since in 2025 will be the next holy year, the Jubilee. Therefore, there's so many people who are now looking to invest into properties they want to turn into B&Bs. They're looking into investing in hospitality. We're expecting to have something like 30 million people during the whole year that, of course, will be looking for hotels and for B&Bs as an option, a cheaper option to hotels. So many hotels and B&Bs were closed during the time of COVID, of course. So those ones that were strong enough to remain on the market, they're making a lot of money. They definitely are. The income from an ordinary rental is usually in a city like Rome something between 4 and 4.5%. If you rent out that same property as a B&B, you can earn up to 4 times more, about 20%. And that's a lot in terms of investment return, 20%.
Wow. Yeah, we see that. We see that here too. A lot of properties that don't necessarily make sense renting out long term. Investors would look to do an Airbnb, a B&B, so they can get higher returns. It does require, as you know, it does require more management. It's more management intensive because it's people coming in and out. You have to manage the bookings. You have to manage the cleaners, all that stuff. If there's any issues, as opposed to long term, it's a little bit less, but it's higher returns.
No, of course. There are cities, for example, in Florence, cities like Florence, where the mayor has decided to put a limit to the Airbnbs. Therefore, if you now buy a property in the most historical part of the city, you're not allowed to do a B&B anymore. They're trying to balance the necessity of housing, of course, from the locals or even students. Truly, if I were to suggest in which market invest, I would say I think there's plenty of investments already done in the hospitality market. I would definitely go down the path of student housing because students are having a very hard time in the major university cities like Rome, Milan, or Bologna. Because of all these places given to Airbnbs, students do not find any more accommodations, and senior housing as well. I would definitely, as an advice in investment, suggest to go down those paths because there's still a lot to be done there, and great return because there'll be more and more students looking for housings and seniors, of course.
Oh yeah,
they're
definitely.
getting older and older.
They definitely are. In regards to the inventory, I know you're saying it's tough because there's not a lot of properties that go on the market, the whole thing with the sellers agents. How is the inventory looking like for buyers if somebody wanted to buy properties, whether it be the luxury space or the regular, the regular family that wants to buy a house?
Yeah. Well, my impression is that our inventory is old, meaning that there's a lot of properties that are overpriced, that are still on the market, and they become old. So they might be there waiting and waiting because there's sellers who are waiting for somebody who would just decide to buy their property at a higher price compared to their real value. So that there's a lot of old inventory. In terms of new inventory, it's pretty poor. In these last months, I've been taking care of, visiting properties, potential sellers, and working on their appraisal. And then they still haven't decided if they want to market or not. So it's there. They know what the value of their property is, but they're saying, Chiara, I'm not sure if I want to sell. I want to wait. I've been told that prices are going up. Therefore, this might not be the right moment. So the inventory is the old one, and as soon as you market at a at a reasonable market price, a two-story, 2-bedroom home, it will sell during an open house in just a week. It just happened to me recently because as soon as something interesting really comes up and it's new, it will go in a moment.
Wow. Yeah, very similar to what we see happening over here. Inventory is low. If the price is right on the home, then it
Mhm.
will get swept up really, really
Yeah.
quick. So,
It's fun,
and
isn't it? It's fun. I mean, it's a lot of hard work because these open houses. I worked with open houses, which is not so common for us in Italy. But I started doing open houses as soon as I became
Mm,
a real estate agent. It's not common. It's not very common. It's
really?
starting to get common. And it's it can be a lot of work behind this, of course, 20, 30 people the same day getting more than one offer. Not everybody in Italy gets more than one offer. They'll take the first one and it's gone.
Of course.
I personally give the chance to more than one to place their offer in order for the seller to be sure that he's getting the best from the market. So it's pretty fun. And so the same for you. This is
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I think I mentioned this to you when we spoke initially. We had a property in Flushing here in Queens, and the property was listed for, I listed just under a million, so at 999, and it ended up selling for $170,000 over. So
Wow.
170,000, 1,170,000. And
Wow.
at the open house, there was over 150 people. We had over 20 offers. It was crazy. And because we priced it the correct way,
Yeah.
if we would have overpriced it, it would have stayed on the market, right? Because
Exactly.
people are very
Yeah.
educated now. Now,
True.
especially with, you can find listings online. People are very, very educated. So they know what the prices are going for. If they see something really good, they're going to jump on it, which is what we have to take advantage for our sellers. We want as many offers for them. Okay. And it's also good, it's good because you help weed out offers that maybe aren't as good. Sometimes the highest offer isn't the best offer,
Mm-hmm,
as
mm-hmm.
you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm curious to know how large this place where you had 120 people take part in the open house. How large was it?
So the good thing is that it was in front of a park, right? But it was
Ah,
residential. It was suburban, part of Flushing, and so I don't host the open houses by myself. So we have a team here, Legacy Elite, and the Legendary Academy, which is the coaching program. Now we ask agents in the coaching program who wants to help host an open house. The reason is, one, we expected there was going to be a lot of people. From the moment I put it on the market,
yeah, yeah.
I was getting calls. And we needed to strategically host the open house. So we had 5 people help us with the open house. Somebody on each floor, somebody in the front taking the info, and somebody in the basement, and then leading it almost like a museum, okay, with a tour guide. So each
Yeah.
step of the house had a tour, another agent explaining the different part of the house, and then they would go out through the basement, out to the backyard, and leave. So if I was to do that by myself, I couldn't have done it. Taking people's infos, showing, it would have been like a 5 hour open house.
Sure.
But
Sure.
even then, it was 3 hours. 3 hours, the open house. But we managed because of the team. So
Sure.
it's good. It's good. But Chiara, I'm interested to know too, what sort of where are investors really looking here in Italy? Is there any specific part that you say, oh, this is where they want? This is a specific area that they want. Your international investors or local investors?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, Rome is certainly Rome and Milan. Milano up north
Hmm.
is Milano is a bit like New York. Okay, Rome is a little more similar to, let's say, Washington. Rome is the capital. It has all the political, bits and pieces, the history. The Milano's more the business-oriented, more European, more very close to Switzerland. There's a lot of new constructions going on there.
Oh.
The trend for 2024 is certainly green constructions and sustainable. So in a city, for example, like Rome, there's a lot of old homes. Okay, people do love historical buildings, but sometimes in terms of investment, it might not turn out to be the best investment because there'll be a lot to spend in terms of renovation. And even once you've renovated, it will be hard to turn those old homes into the green and sustainable kind of homes and housing that, for example, the European Union is now expecting us to build. Because this is a big challenge for historical cities. We have all this beauty around us, but it is at risk in terms of new criteria that the European Union is asking us to follow. So instead, in cities, for example, like Milano, where there's a lot of new constructions going on, they'll all be green, sustainable. Banks will give better loans if you're buying a green and sustainable property, for example. So now that I'm looking for properties for international buyers, I am giving them the option, of course. I'm touring around Rome to show them different neighborhoods in order for them to choose the lifestyle that they prefer. What I say to my clients when they say they want to buy in Italy or in Rome, and I say moving to Italy is not just about, closing a deal, it's about choosing a new lifestyle. But there's so many different lifestyles in Italy. From region to region, we eat differently, we talk differently, and even the way we live is different. And in a big city like Rome, even from neighborhoods to neighborhoods. So I'm giving them the option, the historical part of the city or the new buildings where we will no longer have problems in terms of maintenance and renovations, for example, because wow, I mean, this could take hours and hours. There's so much to say. But to go back to your question, really, I'd say Rome, Milano, Tuscany is the favorite. Tuscany, Tuscany, Tuscany. But also down south, Puglia. For example, now I'm taking care of a big resort in Puglia, which is a very nice area in Salento, and they're new constructions, all green, sustainable, and I have a lot of potential buyers for that. And but then, for example, I have investors who ask me about 5-star hotels, and I have a former 5-star hotel in a historical villa close to Venice. So really, this is what makes it so important to network, okay? Because we can't be specialized in everything. I realize you can't do everything 100%, but if you network, you can find the right people to do that properly for any kind of investor. So whatever request any investor feels like coming up with, I'm pretty confident that if it's not me directly, I would help find the way to manage and succeed in their idea.
No, of course. And the idea is that we're just trying to help, and that's the beauty of what we do. Yes, we have to, again, yes, money is important. We can't pretend it's not, but the main thing that's secondary. The main thing is helping people really realize their goals, their dreams, whatever it may be. If it's for an investment, if they want to live, if you want to help an investor buy a hotel, whatever it is, our job is to facilitate that. And it
Yeah,
is our job, if we don't know something, find out the information or hand it
ab-
off, hand the information to somebody else so they can help them out. Another agent who may
absolutely,
be more
absolutely,
experienced than that, correct?
absolutely. Let's say what I feel like pointing out to is that either if it's buying a property because the dream is to have property in Italy, or if it's wanting to invest, it's not an easy country. It's not an easy country. There's a lot of bureaucracy. There's a lot of ins and outs. There's a lot of sometimes confusion. Even for us as working as a real estate agent in Italy, really sometimes is really complicated. So what I feel like suggesting, once you decide to invest or anyway to purchase in Italy, is to have professional assistance. And a real estate agent by herself or by himself is not the only professional that you want to rely on. You want to rely on a tax advisor. You want to rely on on an attorney specialized in immigration, for example. If you're thinking of becoming a resident, you will pay different taxes if you're buying as a resident and as a citizen, or if you're buying as an investor. You will need to have a team of people who are taking care. There's a lot of, I've noticed recently, there's a lot of campaigns even on Instagram, for example, or on social media, and they come up with these commercials saying visas, golden visas, move to Italy, buy it, it's easy, it's this, it's that. It's not that easy. You need to talk to professionals. It's not just following the lead of a beautiful home in Tuscany overlooking the countryside and following the lead and just ending up in some newsletter. You want to look into it deeper and, talk to a professional about your needs and then follow a path, and not just it can be pretty messy and stressful.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that leads me to my next question. So, if an American would want to buy in Italy, let's say they don't have Italian descent. Let's say they're just strictly American and they wanted to buy in Italy. What steps do they need to take to first start?
Ask all the information regarding, what they're looking for, what they think they're looking for, what lifestyle they're looking for in Italy, when they intend to buy, if they need a bank loan, if they have. I ask them all about their dream or about their project. And once I've read out the interview that they send me, I will then at that point focus on their needs and we'll work on them on a strategy. I mean, I ask them, for example, is if they do intend to become Italian citizens, for example, if they already have an Italian tax code, codice fiscale, which is something that is required in order to make an offer and to purchase a property.
Yes, very, very true. I mean, that's the main thing. We have to find out what they want, because they can't just be like, "Hey, I want to buy in Italy." Okay, where do you want to buy? What exactly do you want? How much do you want to spend? Things of that nature. Now, talk to me a little bit about, if you can, about the banks. So I know you just mentioned that you need to have a was it a Italian tax number to make an offer.
Yeah, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that. How could somebody obtain that? Do you necessarily need to be a citizen of Italy to make an offer to buy homes? How does it work?
Yeah, no. You don't necessarily have to be. I mean, you can be a foreign. I also have an Australian passport. I'm both Italian citizen and an Australian citizen. I could very well buy a house in Italy with my Australian passport and be an Australian buying. But I still would be required to have an Italian codice fiscale, tax code number, which is pretty simple to obtain, but that as well, it can be done online. But I've had clients who, in order to save a few euros, preferred to do it that way instead of going, through the official way with a professional. And we ended up realizing the day before the offer that it was wrong, because it was just put together by the internet, and it wasn't the correct one. So in order to be able to purchase a property, if you're a foreign buyer, you need to have an Italian tax code. We call it codice fiscale. The initials is C.F, C codice, F fiscale, codice fiscale. And you need to have, at a certain stage, you will need to open an Italian bank account. Yeah, it will make things easier, because when you make an offer, you will be asked to leave. Most of the times it's a check, a bank check. Okay. I mean, if it's a European bank, for example, I had a French buyer making an offer last week, and she left the office making the offer with a French bank check. But if you are non-EU, they're not going to be accepted. So you want to have some kind of Italian bank account so that you can at least leave an offer. I mean, you can do it through a bank wire, but it's probably more complicated. And you need to be personally, there are some Italian banks that allow you to open a bank online, but most of the times I've seen my foreign clients struggle
Okay.
obtaining a bank account without being there in person, because of course they want to check all sorts of things, where the money comes from, why are you moving all this money here, what are you, it's serious stuff when it comes to moving 500 600,000 euros worth, property to move from one bank to the other. So it's something pretty serious to be done seriously.
Okay. So just so we get this clear, you do need an Italian bank account, or at least a European bank account, in order to purchase. You can do it.
Yeah. It's not mandatory. I mean, it's not illegal to buy one, to make an offer without, but it's certainly going to help the process. At the closing, if you do not speak Italian, you will need to be represented and give a third person a power of attorney.
Wow.
This is another important requirement, because when you at the closing sign the contract, you either are able to understand in Italian.
Oh, wow. So what you're saying is that you need a translator if you don't know Italian at the closing, because the buyer needs to know what's said in the contract, which is in Italian. That's
Exactly.
very
Yeah. So there's two options. You either give power of attorney, and it could be a lawyer, it could be anybody that you trust, and you give power of attorney. The person needs to speak fluently both Italian and English.
okay. Oh, wow.
Or you will need to pay a translator who will have the contract translated into English for you so that it gets read to you in English, but then you'll still be signing the Italian version, because the contract needs to be in the official language of the country you're purchasing, so Italian. This is where the notary comes into the picture. The notary is a third party paid by the buyer in Italy, and he doesn't represent either the seller or the buyer. He's a third party, and he's a public efficient. Okay, so he will be the one who will take care of all the laws and verifying that the property respects all the laws that are in force at the time of the property being sold. We have a lot of old homes, and laws change from decades to decades.
Chiara, thank you very, very much. Do you have Instagram, social media, anywhere we could, the followers can reach out to you?
Sure. Well, my professional networking, I like doing over LinkedIn. So
LinkedIn.
they can find me on LinkedIn, Chiara, 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 although it sounds like a K, but it's Ippoliti, 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 and that's me on LinkedIn. And I'm also on Facebook and on Instagram as well, but I think LinkedIn is probably the best way to connect.
Okay.
And Kevin, I hope this has been helpful. I mean, it's
It was amazing. Thank you very,
so
very
much.
much. You've been a huge, huge resource. I'm just adding this here for everybody to see. This is Chiara's LinkedIn. Again, Chiara, thank you very much. You have so much vast knowledge about the Italian market. And again, if there's anything you need, let me know. And again, it was a pleasure. Do you have any last things that you want to say?
Well, please send me an invitation to your next open house in New York because it must
Definitely
be
will.
it'll be so fun. I mean, our places are so much smaller. Okay. If I were to say, what do you want to get ready to when you decide to invest in Italy, you want to be prepared to invest in something that is going to look so much smaller to what you used to back in
Well,
the States. Everything.
People in New York live in small apartments, so it's not too different over here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But Chiara, thank you very much again, and again, it was a pleasure speaking to you, and talk to you soon, okay?
Thank you, Kevin. Grazie. Ciao.
Grazie. Bye bye.
Ciao. Ciao. Ciao.